Hey everyone, it's Phoenix. I just wanted to do a new video to show a new feature I added to Master Recipe List in this latest update. To export your data, there's a few options, but basically it's designed so that if you maintain a spreadsheet, either for yourself or for a community website, it makes it real easy to export it to a delimited format so that you can import it into like Excel or some Google spreadsheet or what have you. And it'll keep the fields separate so that you can actually have columns with like the recipe names and then the categories, etc., and keep it all separate so it's really easy to format. So I went ahead and made a custom UI for it. Right now it's not integrated with the program. The only way to open it is actually to type /mrl export and then hit enter and it'll bring it up. And so there's a few options. You have the ability to do cooking recipes or furniture recipes, and you have the ability for either of those to export just the ones you know or just the ones you don't know, depending on what you're going to use it for. It might not look super pretty because it's separated by semicolons. The reason for that and not commas is because a lot of the furniture recipes actually have commas in the name, as you can see here. So if you used commas, it would be a real pain. You'd have to like replace the comma, during the export with something else, and it's not necessary. That most programs like Excel have an option, and I'll show you in a second, when you're importing it, to actually just pick your delimiter. So it'll separate each field at whatever character you pick, basically. Well, there's certain ones you can use, but this is one of the ones you can use. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and export this. This will be all the furniture recipes that I currently know. If you look over here, you see that there's multiple pages. The reason for that is that the game itself has a limit on the number of characters that you can actually have in a text box. So it has, if you have more, and there's like 1,500 or something, I can't even remember how many recipes in the game, and each one of those, however many letters there are, that's a lot of characters. So I think the limit is somewhere around 29,000, but it ends up being where you have to page it across multiple pages. So basically what you do though is, as it says up here, you have to click in this field once so that you see your cursor in there. If you don't, then the UI is going to get your keyboard commands, and so it's not going to work. But you have to just click in here and then hit, as it says here, hold down Control and then press A. That'll select everything. You can't see it all because you can't actually, or at least I've not found a way so far to embed a text box inside of a scroll, so you can't get the actual scroll thing to move it up and down. It doesn't matter. You can scroll it with your mouse wheel, but it doesn't really matter if you see it in here or not. You're only putting it in here to copy it. So Control A, that selects everything. And then once it's all selected, just hit Control, hold down Control, and hit C. And that copies it to your clipboard. Once you have it in your clipboard, you're going to want to go into a text editor. And this could be Notepad. I use Notepad++ for programming, so I'm just going to put it in there. And then make an extra line if you, because as you can see, there's 3 pages. So when you have multiple pages, you just go to the next page, click in there, Control A, Control C, Alt Tab, switches tabs so you can go over to your text editor again, paste the next batch, make a new line, tab back, go to the last page, click Control A, Control C, Alt Tab, and then paste the last one. So that's all the recipes, furniture recipes that I currently know, and that's actually not that many. I don't know many furniture recipes actually. The ones I don't know is more than the ones I do. But what you do after you get it in your text editor, and this will be the same no matter what text editor you use, go to File and then Save As. And what you're going to want to do is make sure that you give it the TXT extension. So you can name it whatever you want, but make sure it's .txt, just like that. Tom Xylophone. Yeah, txt, and then just save it any old place. So the reason being is because most database programs like Excel, and OpenOffice has one too, when you're importing a database formatted text file, it actually has to have the txt extension. So what you're going to do here is just go to Open, and then in the list here, you're going to pick text file. There's a ton of stuff in here, but look for the one, and it might be different if you use a different database program. But if you're in doubt, or if it doesn't say text files, look for .csv, which stands for comma separated values, or .txt. And this one has got both of those in the same one. And basically, you'll see, the file there. It's going to ask you how you want to open it, and you're going to want to use delimited, which just means separated, and then you hit next, and it's going to let you choose what character you want to use as your separator. So I'm going to uncheck tab, and I'm going to pick semicolon, and you can actually see here in the preview that's actually separated the fields, because I have actually output this. If you look at the text, you can see there's a semicolon here, there's a semicolon here. The fields are separated by semicolons, so select semicolon as the delimiter, and at that point you don't have to actually configure anything else. You can just hit finish, and so that's going to open it up. And then in between these columns A, B, C, there's these lines. You can either click and drag those, or a quick shortcut is if you just hover over the line and double click it, it will stretch it out to the size of the widest row so that you can see them all. And then it makes it real easy. You can just go from one to the next and double click each line. And so you see here that it's actually got then a really easy to use, because then you can just select just this column and get just the names, or just this column and get just the for furniture, this is when you go into the housing editor, this is like the category in the housing editor. So when you go and you browse in here, I don't have anything in my inventory, so if you go to the crowns, you'll see all the different things, like conservatory, aquatic. That's what those are. And when there's a dash, the first one is like the parent category, and then there's a dash, and then there's the child category. So like services dash storage, and that means the recipe that you're looking at is in that category, and that subcategory is basically what that signifies. So if you go back over to that, you can see that it's got that. It's also got the station that you crafted at, and then in the last column it has the quality color. So this is a blue quality, and this right here, this little hex, is actually the color code. If you wanted to embed this in like an HTML document in a color tag, you could just use this color tag right here. You'd not use the blue part. That's just for human readability, but you could actually just copy that, just delete the blue part, and that would give you the color code for actually that, so that in your HTML document, the link that you make is actually the correct color based on what the color of the recipe is. So that exports it into a delimited format where you can get it into a database really easily. It's pretty much the same thing with food. And yeah, I know a ton of food recipes. So basically the same process. Yeah, well, this doesn't matter. I'll make a new one. And then get the next page. I don't know why it tabbed to that. Usually it goes between the last two things you opened. And save it as text. TXT. Go back into Excel here and open that one. Still got CSV text selected, so food, delimiter, semicolon, uncheck tab, and finish. And then just double click those to food has a little bit less information because it doesn't have housing editor categories, so really all it's telling you is the name of the item, the recipe, and then the category. So things that are like holiday it basically follows what's in the main program. So like things that are in delicacies, like a lot of the like the event stuff and the XP potions, the game doesn't actually return a category for those. It just gives them a special designation. So I basically just left it like that. So if it's one of those, it'll just say special. The ones that are the base game recipes in the food categories will actually tell you what the category is. Obviously, all food is crafted at a food station, so you don't need the station column, and then it gives you the color. So that is the export feature, basically, in a nutshell. It just lets you get at that data. The most probably useful thing about it is for like if you wanted to have a guild be able to reference stuff that you could make and then put in requests. I honestly would love to be able to do what they have in World of Warcraft, which is because they have a data sharing back end, and you can actually output stuff to chat with automation and lots of other things that aren't just not available in ESO yet for add-on authors. But I mean, I would love to be able to have you just have a button here where you could whisper a friend and then hit a button, and it would like share a link, and they could click that link and it would open up basically master recipe list with basically all their stuff, and that way you could just browse the stuff that they had and choose the stuff you wanted to that they wanted you to make and then send it back to you. You just can't. I've tried ways around it, but it's just, you just can't. I was thinking maybe you could do it with a text whisper, but each individual chat message is limited to like 300 characters, which is like not, it would take dozens and dozens and dozens of messages. You would get kicked from the server for flooding. There's just no way to do it. It may be in the future that ZeniMax will open up a new chat category, which is basically like if you're in a group, or maybe some other thing, like if you're talking to someone who's in your friends list, or maybe if you just enable this new, I don't know what you want to call it, data module chat channel, kind of like the combat log, like it will actually let add-ons output a reasonable amount of data to that channel to facilitate sharing. Even if it was just in groups, it would be a huge thing, but so far there's just no way to do it. So for right now, this is pretty much as good as it gets. But at least now you can export that stuff and play around with it in Google spreadsheets and what have you. So yeah, that's basically that. If there's any problems with it, let me know. I've done pretty much, I mean, relatively extensive testing. I just kind of threw this together. I think it came out looking kind of cool. I mean, it's not all that much to it, but the page thing came out pretty neat. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions maybe of like different fields you'd like to get added, just let me know in the comments, or you can send me a comment or a message at esoui.com and just search for username Phoenix, Phinix, and you can get in touch with me there. So yeah, I hope this helps, and take care.